Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of No Such Thing as a Fish, where we are joined by one of our favourite people in the world, Rosie Jones. Now, those of you in the UK will not need to hear an introduction for Rosie because she is one of the great comedians of our time. Any of you who've watched QI, which I know is a lot of you, will recognise her. She's been on all sorts of stuff. She kind of came into the limelight on The Last Leg and worked on the Paralympics. You'll hear a lot about that in this show. She's a writer as well. She wrote for the Netflix show Sex Education. She's written a brilliant children's book called The Amazing Edie Eckhart, which is about an 11-year-old with cerebral palsy. She's just an all-round very, very funny person, and I really, really hope you'll enjoy this week's show. I'm absolutely certain you will. It's one of my favourites that we've ever done, I think. If you want to see Rosie in real life, then I think her tour it's literally just started maybe this week. And if you want to go and see that, you can go to rosiejonescomedy.com and all the dates are up there. Rosie is Rosie. And that's all to say, really. I really hope you enjoy this show with Rosie, and on with the podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of No Such Thing as a Fish, a weekly podcast coming to you from the QI offices in Holborn. My name is Dan Schreiber. I'm sitting here with James Harkin, Andrew Hunter Murray, and Rosie Jones. And once again, we have gathered round the microphones with our 4 favorite facts from the last 7 days. And in no particular order, here we go. Starting with fact number 1, that is my fact. My fact this week is that the world's greatest Paralympic equestrian, with 14 gold medals under his belt, is also allergic to horses.
That's not his Paralympic qualification. That's not the disability that means... Okay.
Absolutely, no, it's not. This is an extraordinary guy called Lee Pearson who has, over the years, won 14 gold medals, a bunch of bronze and silver along the way as well. And he's just an amazing character, generally. Yeah. I'll mention a couple of things. I'm really excited to ask whether or not you've met him, because I know you've been to the Paralympics, right? But so he's the kind of guy who says, like, my training is curry, Malibu, and Coke, and and he loves to party, and he's got a life story which is, he was born and put into a broom cupboard as soon as he was born.
What? We've got to.
Yeah.
Can I
unpick this?
So he was born with a condition which I'd never heard of before. It's called a thyrogryposis multiplex congenita. I think I've said that right. I think that was known when he was born, and he wasn't looked after especially well by the hospital he was in. So he was put into a cupboard for a few days in a sort of a crib thing, and his mum was heavily sedated so that they didn't know. She was trying to find out where he was when she eventually came round. And as a result, he has no muscles in his arms. So he does the dressage with his shoulders. That's what he pulls with to control. And he got into horse riding because he couldn't ride a bike. So that's the basics.
Is he British or is he?
Yeah.
He is. Yeah. He's also gay, and as a result, the headline on the story that I read was "Out of 2 closets and into Paralympic history." Yeah. That's amazing.
But so just to end the broom cupboard story is that he's left there for 3 days. Finally, the dad comes to visit. The mum is, "Where's my baby?" And they go find the baby, and they half kind of think they're going to find a dying baby, but he's doing okay. And the mum has to play it cool because for some reason she just wanted to not make a big deal out of it, worrying that they might then take him away because of her emotion. And so and so he should have died according to the nurses. So his life story from the get-go is just a phenomenal moment. And he was kind of a young kid who experienced a lot of interesting moments along the way. Like there's a story that Margaret Thatcher carried up the staircase at 10 Downing Street when he was being presented an award when he was 6 years old for Children of Courage. So he's always been sort of in the limelight, and he's a huge advocate of gay
Thatcherism.
But yeah, he's when the Paralympics were going to be happening in Russia, he wanted to go and explicitly talk about gay rights there. He's a really cool guy, he seems.
He is amazing, and I've met him because I've been to 2 Paralympics now, because before I was a comedian, I was a researcher in telly. So in 2016, I went to Rio to work on the last leg, and then in 2021 I went to Tokyo again with the last leg.
Oh, cool.
But this time I was on telly.
Yeah, nice.
So I was the correspondent out there, and tell me to shut up because that's not a fact in this. But I just want to say how both times ago into the Paralympics, I've had incredible emotional journeys.
Right.
Because I've been disabled all my life. I don't mind it. I love the life and the world I created. But it can be exhausting going into rooms all day, every day, when you're normally the only disabled person. So you get this disabled paradise where actually, if you're able-bodied, you look weird. It's such an emotional feeling to know that we're not alone and we're in this all together.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say was I met Lee at both games and he is brilliant. We once interviewed him and he was naked in bed, like he did not care. It's amazing.
It just sounds so cool. I
Yeah.
love that he learnt to ride on horses, not on a horse, but on a donkey. That was his first. That was his
Really?
first experience. Yeah,
Is that
a donkey
right?
called Sally.
In ancient China, no, not ancient China, but early modern China, the women polo players would play on donkeys.
Ah,
So the male polo players would play on horses and the women would play on donkeys. And it was because it's quite a high status thing. It was like
Yeah.
very posh people who would play.
Yeah.
And they just thought it was safer, really, because he's closer to the ground, I
Yeah.
guess. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why you practice to do your equestrian on donkeys as well, because they're slower and closer to the ground.
yeah, yeah.
There is a lot of horse allergy in Paralympic athletes.
Is it?
Horse riding
Yeah?
athletes. Yeah. There's Sophie Wells. She
Yeah, I
won
read
silver
about
in
her.
2012. She's allergic to horses.
But I read that, and I read an article with her that said because she was allergic to horses, her mother had to brush down the pony when she was a child. It does sound to me like she's like, oh no, I can't muck her out, I can't brush her down, I'm allergic.
I'm also allergic to dust.
Yeah. Making beds, I can't.
The other thing about her, Sophie Wells, is she went to school at somewhere called the Robert Pattinson Academy.
Really?
Isn't that amazing?
Only open at twilight.
It's named after Sir Robert Pattinson, who was an MP for Grantham in the 1920s.
Margaret Thatcher's old constituency.
Yeah.
Strong link between Paralympic dressage and Margaret Thatcher. Sophie Wells, the rival of Sophie Wells. So Sophie Wells won silver in 2012. Her rival who took gold was called Michael George. Now, if my surname was Michael, if my surname was George, and I had a son, I'm not sure I'd call him Michael.
Why?
Because
It's
of
two
George
first
Michael.
names.
Oh, it's two first names. But I'm thinking it's like a George Michael reference.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
pick
if
that
they
up at
stood
all.
next to each other, they'd be a palindrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't pick up on someone called Michael George having a name like George Michael?
No.
I didn't.
Sorry, am I the only one here who
No,
did?
I did. Andy.
Oh, thank you.
It was
Okay,
the first
phew.
thing I thought as well.
My first thought was, what Tory MP?
Yeah, that's it was in Thatcher's cabinet. I went to the Sydney Paralympics
Did you?
Yeah, it was awesome. I don't actually have much memory. We sat in Homebush, which is the big stadium that was built for it, and the Paralympics wasn't a big deal in the country. It's sort of the Olympics was such a big deal.
2000 was
2000,
it?
and I remember on the day, my impressions of it were the stadium was virtually empty.
Yeah.
It was a lot of school excursions, which is what we were on, and the music that they were playing over the sound system, and these are while people are doing their big Olympic events, were kids songs like Row, Row, Row Your Boat and stuff. And I just remember thinking,
is that not during the rowing event?
Yeah, it was. Good motivation. But I just remember sitting there thinking, these are professional athletes who've spent 4 years getting to this point, and they've got nursery rhymes played. It was really odd.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like the opening and closing ceremonies will have Coldplay, and they'll have
Michael George.
Yeah.
Michael George.
Doing whisper curlers.
The first Paralympic Games was in Rome in 1960, and they had a few games that unfortunately no longer happen. My favourite was a sport called Darchery.
Darchery.
Tortury. So cool.
Which is exactly what it sounds like. It was archery.
In a pub.
Yeah. Everyone was drunk. Then they had it like dartboard, and they had to get down to zero.
That's a great idea.
But with bow and arrow.
But what's
really
crazy
fun.
is archery has a very big, effectively a large dartboard, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like that. So that's making archery 10 times harder if suddenly your place of aim is a dartboard.
Yeah.
Like that's,
Yeah.
you've got less surface area for.
Was it the size of a dartboard? Or was
Yeah, I
it...
think so. Oh, wasn't it? I thought it was literally
No,
a
it must
dart.
have been bigger. If your normal arrow for an archery, if you fired that at something the size of a dartboard, it's going to go in numerous different numbers at the same time.
That's what I was confused about, but you've raised a really good point. What if it was bigger?
I was reading about visually impaired skiing.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is amazing because you're skiing down and then there's someone else who's skiing in front of you and they're attached by Bluetooth. So they're telling you what's coming all the way down and then you have to ski behind them.
Wait, so they're not attached physically?
They're not
attached.
physically attached. They're a guide and they have like headphones. But like, how hard is it to attach your headphones to your phone by Bluetooth?
Oh,
that must be terrifying to just like, your Bluetooth is now disconnected. Oh, fuck!
What if you then connect to someone else? Getting the wrong info.
What? I just think that must be absolutely terrifying.
Visual impairment is such an interesting territory about how there's assists just for that tiny bit of guidance.
Yeah.
So for swimming, there's a thing called the tapper, where when you're coming, they'll tap a swimmer on the head to let them know that the
end
end
of the pool.
is coming up.
Yeah.
Or if you're
I think that's because it's so basically as the swimmer who is visually impaired, you can just swim at full pelt and you'll know that the end's coming up,
Sure.
so you don't have this uncertainty ahead of you.
Yeah.
But I think that is a big responsibility on the tapper.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got to get that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Got to get it in one.
You've got to get that bang on. Yeah, exactly.
And you have to agree what the thing is before you start the race.
what the distance is.
I'm sure they do, Andy. I'm sure,
Yeah.
they're not just winging it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and tap you 1 centimetre before the edge of the... Yeah.
But you laugh, but there was an incredible swimmer in Rio, and he had no arms
Oh, yes.
and no legs, and his way of stopping in the pool was literally to hit his head
So good.
God.
by the end of it. He must have a brain damage as well.
Was he wearing like a helmet or something?
No!
Oh my god.
No.
That's amazing.
Also, what I love about the Paralympics is all the different groups.
Yes.
There's a million groups and they group on ability, and I think that's why I love it more than the Olympics, because you know that everyone in that race is the same sort of ability.
Oh yeah, I didn't know about the classification thing.
Yeah, I hadn't read that either.
And it's why there are so many events, as it were, because you've got 10. Yeah. Is it 10 classes of disability from the least to the most impaired?
Well, yeah, but you get different classes for swimming, different classes for running.
Yeah.
You just need it because you cannot have a visually impaired person next to an amputee.
Yeah, you can't have someone with no arms and legs against someone who's allergic to horses.
Yeah,
That's not...
But I think it's right that so within class 7 or whatever it is, there will be different kinds of impairment. So you might have someone who's got a limb which is shorter, or someone who's got impaired muscle power. Or someone who's shorter, but they have been assessed at being the same level of impairment.
And what it means is
So
the
clever.
winner is whoever's the best on the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to set up rivalry within rivalry. So obviously the Paralympics are countries competing against each other. But when I went to Tokyo, I set up Team CP. So I only supported people with cerebral palsy. And if there was anyone with like ME, I'd be like, get away! You're not our group!
That, I think, is the spirit of the Paralympics, really, right there. You know.
What? You're visually impaired. Piss off.
So good.
Stop the podcast.
Stop the podcast.
Hi everyone, we'd like to let you know that this episode of No Such Thing as a Fish is sponsored by No Such Thing as a Fish.
James, it's true. We finally inceptioned ourselves. What?
Well, more specifically, we are sponsored by Clubfish, which is a wonderful secret place beyond the velvet rope where you can get all sorts of goodies.
That's right. Clubfish. If you are not a member of Clubfish, you're missing out. Basically, if you don't like listening to ads like this one, go to Clubfish, and if you sign up for just a couple of quid a month, I think it's £2 or £3 a month, it's small, you get ad-free episodes, and the other thing you get, which is really fun, is bonus content.
Yeah, we do things like Drop Us a Line, which is delving deep into our mailbag of lovely listeners who never send us anything insulting whatsoever. It's always, oh, you've never got anything wrong. We talk about those things. We have bonus compilations of things that didn't fit in the normal episode. We have a very cool thing called Meet the Elves, where we have a chat with one of our younger colleagues who we're all very jealous of because of their youth.
It's mostly us asking them, why is your skin so nice? Basically, Clubfish is really fun to be a part of. If you enjoy fish and you can find room for a little bit more of it in your life, then all you need to do is go to, what's that website, James?
No such thing as a fish.com/Apple if you're an Apple user, and no such thing as a fish.com/Patreon if you are not an Apple user.
That is right. Just go to nosuchthingasafish.com/ either Apple or Patreon. We would love to see you there. Come on in. The water's lovely.
And it's time to say on with the... Or is it?
Well, the other exciting thing, James, is that we have some live shows coming up in London. They're going to be at the Soho Theatre, deep in the heart of swinging London. Yeah. It's at the Soho Theatre. We're doing 11 shows between the 17th of July and the 21st of August. There are going to be celebrity guests. You don't like us? Doesn't matter. One of the 4 people on stage won't be us.
We can guarantee pretty much anything could happen except for swinging. There'll be amazing facts. There'll be dorking out. It's going to be really, really fun. Already quite a lot of the dates have sold out, and the ones that have not sold out, there are very, very few tickets available. So we're here to tell you, if you want to see us live in London in July and in August, then really this probably is your last chance to get tickets.
That's right. Just go to nosuchthingasafish.com/live and snap yours up now.
Okay, now for sure, it really is on with the podcast.
On with the show.
Okay, it is time for fact number 2, and that is Rosie.
A man from Yorkshire once changed its name by default to Yorkshire Bank PLC, a fascist bastard. Lovely.
Now, for avoidance of doubt, we're not saying that Yorkshire Bank PLC are fascist bastards. Are we?
No, there's only one man saying that, and his name is Yorkshire Bank Fascist Bastards.
Yeah.
So are we going to call him Mr. Bastards or
Well, actually, I've read that to his friends is known as Yorkshire.
Really?
So has he stuck? Because this was a few years ago. I think it was
1999?
the 90s. Yeah. So has he stuck with it? I wonder.
Well, I tried to look and I can't find it, but I like to think
Hope so,
that
yeah.
Yorkshire's out there enjoying Yorkshire and hating Yorkshire Bank.
I reckon he's probably now called like United Utilities are fascist bastards, or the Royal Mail are fascist. But he probably just keeps doing it, right?
Because actually, he's changed his name to those, that's 6 words.
Yeah.
So 4 of those are middle names. So he will look like he's just called Yorkshire Bastards.
Well, we don't know if fascist bastards is a double barrel.
Oh, yeah, it could be. Yeah, true. Yeah.
I always picture this going to a deed poll because I need to change my name to something. Let's say a lot of actors do it, right?
Yeah.
Where a name's taken, so they pick something quite normal. And you're standing in the queue, and the person in front of you is like, "Oh, what are you changing it to?" And he's like, "Oh, Yorkshire Bank of Fascist Bastard." "Oh, that's pretty cool." Guy behind you, what are you changing it to? "Oh, Rainbow Sunshine Lollipops." "Oh, god damn it!" And I imagine I would just keep coming out with a different name. I'd buckle under the
Because you came in
influence.
just to call yourself Don Schreiber.
Yeah, exactly. I'm there, the Don Schreiber. I'm leading as Indiana Jones, Platypus, Orange Man, whatever.
I've got an idea. I think after this we should all go and change our names to each other.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I don't mind being Rosie Jones. A lot more work. His real name was Michael Howard.
Yeah.
Like the ex-Conservative leader.
Was Howard big in the 90s?
Huge.
Michael Howard?
Yeah. I don't know.
That was when he was a
I wasn't
minister,
here.
because
Yeah.
the Conservatives were in government at the time. So, yeah, he was a big deal at the time.
Okay,
So
right.
extra incentive to change from Michael Howard if you didn't want to be.
Yeah.
But the report from the time is so good because he asked for his balance at the bank, 69 pence, to be returned to him by cheque. And a spokeswoman for the bank had to say, the relationship with Mr. Howard has irretrievably broken down and we very much regret that.
And he said, "Sorry, who are you talking about? Mr. Howard, who's he?" Conservative leader? No.
I love Rosie. The link you sent over was from a Guardian article,
Yeah.
which was called "It's a Funny Old World," 1999,
Yeah.
and this was published in November. And just the other examples in there, just to read
my
one or two of them.
yeah.
There was this great one in Sydney. 120 men named Henry attacked each other during a "My Name is Henry" convention. Henry Panty of Canberra accused Henry Papp of Sydney of not being a Henry at all, but in fact an Angus. "It was a lie," explained Mr. Papp. "I'm a Henry and always will be." Whereupon Henry Papp attacked Henry Panty, whilst 2 other Henrys, Jones and Dyer, attempted to pull them apart. Several more Henrys, Smith, Calderwood and Andrews, became involved, and soon the entire convention descended into a
I
giant
wonder how
fistfight.
they hoovered up after that. What kind of-
The final line, the brawl was eventually broken up by riot police, led by a man named
Henry!
Shane.
It was Australia.
Rosie, you're from Yorkshire, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a proud Yorkshire lady, and I think we get a reputation of being tight bastards. But I wanted to come here and say, actually, that reputation
Okay.
isn't even true, because there was a survey done that said more than 60% of Yorkshire folks never use their overdraft. And 3/4 of people from Yorkshire put up to £200 a month aside. So we've got the money going on.
Wait, are you a Yorkshire ambassador? Are you trying to
Yes.
change? Is that why you're here? You've got an agenda.
Come to bloody Yorkshire.
All that says to me, Rosie, if they're not going into their overdraft and they're saving money, is that they're not spending any money.
Oh, yeah.
There's a weird fact I found which kind of combines the name changes and the money thing. So is it pronounced Conisborough in Yorkshire?
Yeah.
Conisborough,
Yeah.
okay. So there's a place in Yorkshire called Conisborough which has a road in it which is called Butthole Road. Okay?
Lovely.
We
No, it's-
love it.
They didn't love it. It was probably named after a water butt
Yeah.
that used to be in the road. I mean, perfectly innocent, normal, not funny,
Shut
but
up.
3 words. Butthole Road.
Imagine when that wasn't funny.
I know. Well, the thing is, they were getting a lot of prank calls. They were getting tourists turning up with their asses out and that kind of stuff. Taxi drivers point blank refused to believe it was so they wouldn't take you there. There were tour buses turning. I mean, it was quite quiet tours, I guess. But one family actually sold up and moved in 2003 because they were so annoyed about the jokes.
Yeah.
And the new owner of the house, Peter Sutton, said he knows what to expect and he's looking forward to moving in.
I
know.
Bugger.
Very sadly, for our purposes, they changed the name of the street in 2009 to Archer's Way.
Arse what?
But the council refused to replace the street sign for free, which I don't know if that plays into the other Yorkshire stereotype.
Yeah. Also, there's a village that I've never been to, but I see signs for it, called the Land of Nod.
Really? The land of Nod?
Yeah.
Ah.
That's quite
'Cause
nice.
it's in the Bible, isn't it? The land of Nod. It's the place east of Eden where they get sent off. I
Is
think.
it?
There's a long time since I read my
great.
Bible, but yeah.
Is that why they call it God's own country?
Yorkshire.
Yeah.
No, it's because they're deluded.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Oh, I've started something
I'm
now.
from Lancashire.
Do you
sorry,
guys?
Rose.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
have rivalries?
Oh,
Beef?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We hate
Wow.
each other.
Have you heard of a little thing called the Wars of the Roses? Because
It's still ongoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
But actually, my mum and dad are from Lancashire.
Are they? Oh, you're not.
So,
A peace offering
yeah.
has occurred so quickly.
And sorry, Rosie. So you're from Bridlington, right?
yeah.
They have 21 fish and chip takeaways within a 5-minute walk of the centre of Bridlington, right?
And I call that a challenge.
And the problem is, you have so much fish and chips that also means you have a lot of seagulls.
Yes.
Right. I was reading the Bridlington Echo, and it's a recurring story about the problems with seagulls. The Royal Mail had to warn residents that they wouldn't be getting their postal deliveries because seagulls kept attacking postal workers.
Wow.
And there was a bank that was closed because nesting seagulls had caused a leak in the roof. And the Bridlington fire station had to rescue a stranded seagull after it sat on top of a metal lamppost for too long in the winter. So it's,
Wait, did it get... sorry, just to burrow down into that one a bit.
Yeah.
What was it, frozen onto
I'm
the...
afraid, like when you put your tongue on a
Yeah,
metal.
yeah.
Well, apparently if you're a seagull, it works with your feet as well.
Oh no!
Bloody hell. How
no.
did they rescue it?
Well, with the tongue, you usually pour like lukewarm water
Yeah.
on it. I
Yeah.
imagine they did something similar.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I think those are great, but I think what that shows more than anything is shit all happens in Bridlington.
Yeah. Well, there was a
I
big
like
story recently. A woman called Susan Radford. She was a grandma and she spoke out against sexually explicit sweets that were on sale on the seafront.
Ooh. Do we have any examples?
Yeah, come on.
Well, like rock, like
Yeah.
solid
Yeah.
Stick of
sugar.
rock?
Oh,
yeah,
you
but
mean
in
like the shape of it?
in the shape of
Oh,
We can get one.
what?
of penises, Rosie.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
I knew.
And she was so upset that she got in touch with the local Anglican church to help her complaint, and she said she's not going to visit Bridlington again until they get rid of the rock
She's not from
pox.
Bridlington.
No, she just went on holiday one day, saw them, and went, "I'm not coming back here again."
Wow.
Good. We don't need her.
So I saw a couple of articles where it said Bridlington voted one of the worst towns in the UK and stuff, but everyone who then went to ride up on it came out going, "It's awesome here. What are you talking about? Like, who said that this was bad?"
Yeah.
I haven't been myself, so I don't know, but the pictures, it looks kind of pretty.
I mean, I think Bridlington is very good if you're under 5 and you're over 85.
Right.
Okay.
In between, there's not a lot
Yeah.
to
It's
do.
Pretty rough message to hear on your 6th birthday in Bridlington.
Get out now, Freddie. Get out.
Can I quickly tell you a couple of Yorkshire world records?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
Very proud Yorkshire world records. Fastest time to make a litre of ice cream, which was 10 seconds by
Wow.
Andrew Ross. But the ingredients did include liquid nitrogen, so I feel like there was some...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Cute.
Yeah. World's loudest clap.
Okay.
Are we talking about the action?
We're not talking about the disease.
So painful you could hear him screaming for miles. I've got the clap!
No.
I once read, I don't know if this is true, that the name The Clap came, this is awful, that they used to put your penis between two pieces of wood and then whack them together, and it would like get the discharge out of the
Right,
urethra.
we're talking about a 7-year-old girl here, so I hope you're all very proud of yourselves.
I think that might be true even, I'm not sure.
I think that's to cure a different thing. I
Is
think
it?
there's a thing called peoria where the penis starts to bend. And it
Oh,
happens
yeah.
increasingly as you get older, and it's incredibly painful. And there are now ways of dealing with it, but
Also, if your penis isn't flat enough, that'll do
yes.
it.
Anyway, look, can we get back to this poor kid,
Sorry, what was this? So a young girl,
Martha
7 years
Gibson?
old.
Martha Gibson.
She was clapping.
Her family noticed she's got an incredibly loud clap. You know, when some people they
Yeah.
have these
Yeah.
like hollow space in their hands. And it's apparently the equivalent of a heavy goods vehicle passing by, 73 decibels, and they got someone from Guinness to measure it.
So a 7-year-old.
Yeah. And maybe there's someone louder who hasn't been officially Guinness approved measured.
Yeah.
But anyway, she was born in 1998, which means she's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, she's in her 20s now. I don't know if she's still
She
got
hasn't
the...
been to any of our gigs, I can say
Yeah.
that.
Can I say one last thing from these? It's a funny old world.
Yeah.
So they're just such great stories. A sex line caller complained to Trading Standards after dialing an 0891 number for an advertisement saying "Hear me moan," only to be played a tape of a woman nagging her husband for failing to do jobs around the house.
Oh, I love that.
And then a sign seen in a police canteen in Christchurch, New Zealand. Will the person who took a slice of cake from the commissioner's office return it immediately? It is needed as evidence in a poisoning case. Just a good gag. Okay, it's time for fact number 3, and that is Andy.
My fact is that, despite them being one of the largest fish on the planet, nobody knows where female whale sharks live.
So not the ocean.
Yes, the ocean. Yeah, so...
Okay, next fact.
yeah.
Solve that quickly.
Oh, wow.
Jonathan Creek.
Detective Dan investigates.
You are welcome.
They live in the ocean. Yeah.
It's a big place.
It's a big
Yeah.
place. So just a shout out to Rich Horner who sent this fact in, not knowing that, Dan...
Would solve it so quickly.
Yeah. This is about whale sharks, which are absolutely massive, and I don't know very much about them. They're the largest shark.
Yeah.
So they're not a whale, they're a shark.
Yeah.
And they're only called a whale shark because they're just so huge.
Largest fish, I reckon. He said one of the largest fish, but there can't be many bigger.
There are sunfish, aren't they, which are massive. I don't know. I'm sure there are different
they are.
dimensions, aren't there? Like there's
Yeah.
mass and then there's length and there's all of this. But they are absolutely huge.
Apparently, they weigh as much as 3 elephants.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yet we don't know where the females live. It's mad. So scientists, they know where young males are because they tend to frequent waters that are more coastal and they're very harmless, by the way. I should say they're omnivores, but they eat plankton and
Not if you're a plankton.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, and there's one place where scientists know they're likely to find female whale sharks, which is just off Darwin, which is the northernmost Galapagos island. But that's the only place that they know they hang out. And they live, across thousands of miles of ocean. They're just missing.
Just evade us.
I read that they actually found one confirmed pregnant whale shark, and it was 10.6 meters.
Okay.
And she contained 300 pups.
What?
300?
Yeah.
300?
Holy moly.
But they don't all survive.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, thank goodness.
Yeah.
In a sense. I mean, we
Well,
know
yes.
exactly where they all were because it would be knee deep. It would be like Bridlington and
Oh, God.
fish and chip shops. It would be.
Wow.
And they give birth. They're called aplacentally viviparous. So oviparous is where you lay an egg. Viviparous is live young. But aplacental viviparous is where you lay an egg inside yourself. It then hatches also inside you, and then you eventually give birth to the live young, which is hatched from the egg.
amazing.
So 300 eggs will have hatched inside that mother.
Those eggs are the biggest eggs on Earth as well.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. This might be common knowledge, but what makes this is a whale shark? What makes it more shark than whale? What's the difference between a whale and a shark?
One's a mammal and one's a fish.
Yeah, but one other difference which I didn't know is that sharks are all cartilage and whales are bone. That's what makes it the shark.
That's true.
Is that crazy? No bones.
One interesting thing because of that is that I know this because I'm old. As you get older as a human, you kind of get stiffer a lot. Well, sharks are the opposite. Sharks start off being quite stiff, and then as they get older, they get floppier and floppier.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Maybe I haven't got cerebral palsy. Maybe I'm a shark.
If you've got more than 300 teeth, that is another sign.
Oh no, I've only got 280. Speaking of teeth, whale sharks have teeth on their eyes.
Oh, yeah. These. What are they called? Denticles or something like this? Yeah.
Because sharks don't have eyelids. So in order to protect them, they have what looks like little teeth.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And their eyes stick out a tiny bit from their head, which is also a problem, obviously, in terms of protecting them.
Yeah.
So they have another trick, which is that they can retract their eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They just go boop.
When what? When
I guess when danger threatens. It's quite a long way. It's about half the diameter of the eyeball. They can just...
Wow.
I love the noises for whenever animals do anything.
Anything
I
at
remember
all.
when hippos retracted their testicles by going...
Exactly.
The teeth as well. So these teeth that are all over their eyes are all over their body as well. They've got these denticles all over their body. And I've read this description saying that it's a protection thing. So if another shark bites them back, without them really doing anything, they're sort of biting the shark back itself because the teeth might hurt a bit, I guess, if you're biting into it. That's just mad. You're biting something from your torso. It's nuts.
They grow really quickly, so they're born quite big, but then they get really big. So there was one in an aquarium that went from weighing 1.7 pounds to 333.4 pounds in 3 years, just over 3 years.
Wow.
And I worked out in human terms, that would be equivalent of a 3-year-old baby growing to the size of the world's largest unicycle.
You always go too far with these things. You always think, I can cram in one more fact here.
You can imagine that, what the world's biggest...
Well, I can imagine a range of things for the world's biggest unicycle, because right now I'm imagining the Empire State Building with a unicycle leaning up against the entire height of it.
It's smaller than
How
that.
big is the world's biggest
It's 31 feet.
Oh, that's big.
I thought
that's
everyone
very
knew that,
big.
actually.
Yeah. 31 feet.
As in 31 feet, but in the same proportions as a normal human.
So
you know what I
not
mean?
not the, so the so the child wouldn't look like a unicycle, is what you're saying.
It would look like a normal proportioned human, but 31 feet tall.
Yeah.
God.
I think the unicycle thing is really thrown as well. Has that been? I've got more questions about the unicycle now. Is it rideable, this unicycle?
Yeah, it has to be rideable, otherwise it doesn't get the world record.
Yeah.
God, that must be a terrifying unicycle ride.
Yeah.
How long must your legs be to ride that?
I think what they do is they keep the pedals quite close to where your bum is, like
brilliant.
the same distance as your leg.
Yeah, that's clever.
foot to your bum.
I wouldn't have done it that way, but I think they've done it better actually. than me.
That was a big wheel.
No, it's mostly like a long stalk.
It's mostly the pole, yeah.
It's a normal unicycle, but they've just extended the distance between the wheel and the pedals.
I've seen people do it on these record size. It's petrifying.
Well, you would be able to know exactly how big one of these babies that don't exist would be because you've seen it yourself.
Yes, exactly. So I was on board. I thought it was a fantastic analogy. You need to watch more YouTube clips, you two.
These pups we were talking about a bit earlier.
Yeah.
So those 300 pups, this is a really cool thing. They're often inside the mother. They're at different stages of development, but they're all from the same father, whale shark. The mother can basically store sperm for ages and gradually fertilize a little bit at a time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'll just
Yeah, so I think other sharks do it, and maybe even kangaroos, where they sort of like pocket away the sperm.
That's not what's in that pocket, is it? That's full of sperm. Wow, really?
Yeah.
Is that
No,
right? So
lots
it's
of
one.
animals.
So just to get this right, it's
Yeah.
one male whale shark.
Yeah.
Has sex. The female keeps all the sperm and then slowly has more and more children with that original.
Exactly. I think it's one mating session, and then.
Imagine if humans could do that. Someone who had sex for 20 years coming round with their baby.
Yeah, when you finally get the call that you've got an illegitimate child, it's like, you've got 20 illegitimate kids.
And they're the size of the world's largest unicycle.
Yeah. And that drunken night in Bidlington? Well, you're...
One's 18, one's 12, two are 8.
Yeah.
They have this really interesting habit, whale sharks, which is they dive down about 2,000 meters.
Yeah.
Huge. It's the largest vertical range almost of any sea creature.
God, that's like 200 times the size of the world's largest unicycle.
Gosh. Yeah, well, that really makes you think, doesn't it? Imagine that.
How long would your legs have to be for that?
Okay, so
And the thing is, we don't know why. And this, and also when they sink, they so scientists often tag the few that they can find to research because that's a really useful thing for them. But it shakes. Basically, the tags don't work 2,000 meters down, so they they can see in the dark as a result. They've got special genetic mutation which allows them to see in the dark because they are so deep down. Wow. But there is and we don't know why they do it because down there's less oxygen, there's less food, it's very cold, so they have to warm themselves up a bit afterwards. Yeah. There is one theory, well, there are a couple of theories, I think, but this is from a whale shark scientist called Simon Pearce, which is that it might be so they can navigate better because they can get a better reading of the Earth's magnetic field closer to the crust, which is effectively that they're going to get a better signal.
That's amazing.
Which I love as a theory.
It's like holding your phone up in the air to get a better signal.
It's exactly like that.
Wow, that's
exactly like that.
super.
That's
amazing.
incredible. We don't know if they make noises, as in vocalizations.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
well, we kind of know that they don't, but there's a few scientists that think that they do.
Okay.
And it's very confusing because they don't, as far as we can tell, have anything that would make a sound. No vocal cords whatsoever. Right. The way that their teeth are set up is they can't do a grinding sound to create a noise that comes out as grinding. So they don't have a swim bladder, which a lot of fish will use to control buoyancy, but also noise will come out of that you'll hear. So you don't have anywhere really that sound can come from. Yet there is a scientist called Heather Barrett it, who has been recording them and a couple of times has got sound out of them. So it's a sort of mysterious thing. She's been following this one male called Shredder. She said she thought it sounded like 2 strokes over the ridged back of those wooden frog noisemakers sold to tourists in every Mexican market. Another relatable example.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so big mystery to be solved.
Wow.
Do the whale sharks make noises?
Very cool.
Yeah.
I was looking at some odd females in the animal kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
Because I found that there's a thing called a pouched rat. And some female pouched rats can create a chemical that makes all the other females' vaginas seal up.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow. So is it a status? Do you have to be the sort of lead?
You're spot on. So, like the most dominant female in a pack of pouched rats, she'll be the one who's mating. And to stop any of the other females mating, she sends out this chemical, and all the vaginas go.
And close you put it in terms I can understand now.
Isn't that amazing? I find that astonishing.
What a power move!
Yeah. That's the craziest thing. That's one of all the years. That's one of the weirdest facts I think I've ever heard on the show. You should write Funny Old World for The Guardian. Okay, it is time for our final fact of the show, and that is James.
Okay, my fact this week is that the place where Judas plotted to betray Jesus is about to become a ziplining site.
So cool. Will they mark on the ground the point where Judas did the exact plotting so that as you zipline over it, you can contemplate that?
That would be good.
Yeah.
Or maybe you have to pay 30 pieces of silver or anything else to do it. I don't know. This is in Jerusalem, and it's an area sometimes known as the Hill of Evil Counsel. And according to tradition, this is where Judas plotted to betray Jesus. And it's part of a more general sort of attempt in Jerusalem to bring more tourists in and make it more tourist friendly, although some people say it as part of a bigger political strategy to make East and West Jerusalem less solid things and maybe make Jerusalem a more Israeli area.
I mean, what do ziplines do? They cross borders. You know, normally a good thing, but sometimes can be controversial.
It can be controversial,
Yeah.
and according to some people, in this case, it is.
Can I check? Sorry, James. What you said, the place where Judas plotted to betray Jesus. I thought, well, maybe this is the place where Judas actually betrayed Jesus. Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah, that's where he did the actual betrayal.
So this is just like the pre-betrayal.
This is where he thought about it. He was like, you can't just turn up at the Garden of Gethsemane with no plan.
No, God no.
You need to think about it first. Yeah.
If you fail to prepare to betray Jesus, you prepare to fail.
Yeah, and this was in the Hill of Evil Counsel, so it was where the Romans sort of came up to him and said, "Hey, want to do a bit of betraying?"
Wow.
And yeah, that was where that supposedly happened.
And at the end of that meeting, Judas went, God, I wonder one day in the future how they're going to commemorate this spot. A statue of me, what's it going to be?
And then, you can get on it on your zip line, and it'll take you down to a place called the Peace Forest.
Very nice.
As far as I
lovely.
know, it doesn't have any biblical story attached to it. But then the developers are saying, well, it's nothing to do with this political thing. It's actually because they're quite neglected areas. A lot of drug dealers around there.
So how do you fight drug dealing? With zip lines. Yeah. Make it easier to escape.
Put a zip lock on a zip line.
It's very hard to drop a single E into someone's mouth from a zip line, though. That is
I smell a challenge.
I've never been on a zip line.
I have.
Have you?
Oh yes, I did the Channel 4 travel show. That in hindsight, I think the producers were trying to kill me. Because every day I go in the outfits and be like, okay, so now you get when skydiving.
Were the producers related to anyone you'd slagged off at the Paralympics the previous year? Was that okay?
Yeah.
They all had ME, didn't they? And they were...
So we did one episode in Wales, which is home to the longest and the fastest zipline. And I did it, and it was incredible.
That one looks amazing. I've seen clips of that.
Was
it
it
does
with
look very cool.
Jenny Eclair, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you know?
It was on television.
I thought I just did it for fun. But Jenny was hilarious because obviously there's a camera on us and I was screaming and yelling and having the time of my life. We look back at Jenny's video and we were like, is she asleep? She was so zen.
Oh, really?
She said she enjoyed it.
I've been on a zip line only once, and it was a tiny one. It was one of those adventure places that you go to, and I don't know what went wrong. I don't know how I'd done my harness up incorrectly.
No, you didn't.
It sort of trapped my testicles in a really painful way. So I go down the zip lines screaming, and I don't make it right to the end. So I can't get my legs onto the thing. And I am screaming like it's really hurting. But unfortunately, the person I did it with was my friend who's a comedian, Tom Davis, who's a very sinister sense of humor. And got everyone to step back and let me just hang there while I was screaming. There's a lot of photos that Tom has online of me screaming with my testicles trapped in a... Yeah, that's my only experience.
Awful.
Yeah.
And you were hanging there, ironically, like a testicle, like a huge testicle, but
Yes.
your own testicles weren't free.
Exactly.
And that was the problem.
Yeah.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
Does make you think.
James, have you been on a zip line?
I have. I was just thinking, I've always liked Tom Davis.
Yeah.
And I like him even more.
Yeah.
I have on a few occasions.
Well, the only one who hasn't done a zip line.
Around this table.
Right, on, we'll all go to Wales.
Yeah.
We'll all go change our name by default. And then we'll go zip line.
Well, I've been somewhere. I've been somewhere that has recently got permission for a zip line.
Have you?
But when I went there, they hadn't got the planning permission yet. Honester Slate Mine in the Lake District. Just wanted to give a shout out to them.
Okay, cool.
They spent 10 years trying to get permission for a zip line. 10 years.
Yeah.
Really?
And the council said, no, this is beautiful here, this old slate mine.
Yeah.
And I've got to tell you, it's not the place that would suffer irretrievable...
Watch out, he's slating it.
I enjoyed it. I bought some souvenir slate there. I had a really good time. Like it's a fun place to go. I was there by myself, and I had a really nice time. Did a slate mine walk. It was brill.
Lovely.
But you do think the addition of one wire and the occasional person screaming as they pass.
Yeah.
Do you think?
But
You could think of the amount of slates you could see in a short amount of time if you had that zip line.
Stop it. You're trying to get me excited, and it's working. But it will be used to transport slate in quiet periods. You know.
Is that right?
Yeah. I believe that's the arrangement they've come to.
So it is going to happen.
Yeah.
Are you on a waiting list?
Of course.
On a slating list. Oh, God.
Anyway, just wanted to add my own personal anecdote.
That's
I've read such a good story that I wanted to...
Topped all of ours. We know one of the dangers of going on a zip line. I'm very glad you didn't get this.
Testicle.
Yes, that's one of them. The other one is slamming into sloths. So I watched a video of a young boy in Costa Rica going down a zip line, and behind him is either an instructor or a parent, I don't quite know who. And you see the video, he's just going super fast, super strong through this canopy. And then suddenly you just see this ball of fur and he slams into it. And fortunately, the sloth doesn't lose grip, but they both stop. And this sloth is just so confused and turns around.
Was it all right?
Yeah, it seemed to be okay. It didn't drop. Fortunately, it was the boy.
It was fine. I saw that video as well, and the person who's in charge who was called Flavio Leighton Ramos. He said, the sloth or child weren't hurt. They just had to wait for the sloth to get out of the way for around 15 minutes.
Yeah. And you watch the sloth climbing away, and there's moments where its hand's not on the wire, and it's taking so long. You think,
it's on the wire?
Yeah, it's on the wire. It's
That's
in the middle of the zip.
Yeah,
right.
so the zip line's going past a load of trees, and so it's obviously been on one of the tree hanging branches and sort of thought this was a branch. but
Yeah.
it's a zip line.
Gosh.
But it's literally, there's no tree near it for, I guess, 15 minutes because there's no way for it. It's got to just,
right.
it's like cliffhanger. It was amazing.
But
The
isn't-
intro a cliffhanger.
Isn't that where the zipline comes from, Costa Rica? The modern zipline was invented there by a bloke called Donald Perry.
That's right.
Because he was trying to study the canopy, and there was no good way of going from tree to tree. So he turned up in 1979 with a crossbow, which is so cool.
That is cool.
Just started firing it around with a wire attached and bringing it up. What a
Yeah.
guy.
They called him Hombre Mono, which means monkey man in Costa Rica, because he was using, just using all these wires to get around.
So cool.
Really cool.
And he didn't patent it, I don't think. So someone else came along.
Yeah,
Well, someone else came along and did do that. It was a sort of a businessman who wanted to make money off it, and he was called Darren Hrenyuk, and he's a Canadian guy. And when other people then started using zip lines, he used to go around and cut the zip lines down.
What?
But he would do it claiming it in a legal way. So in some cases, he would bring, a representative from a sort of official body to sort of say, yes, this is a legal thing. And so he'd go cutting these things down, even though he didn't have a claim to the invention of it, because it was very clearly from this Perry guy. Yeah.
Wow. Can I tell you about a bloke called Jack Reynolds?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Now, Jack is the oldest man ever to use a zip line
Okay.
that we know of. It was 2018. He was 106 years old.
Very cool.
I know. I gotta say, just a shout out to Jack Reynolds. He's very sadly passed away. He died in 2020, aged 108.
Yeah.
Wow.
In a
Amazing.
bungee jump accident.
Yeah.
James, you joke.
Oh, no.
No, well, yeah. But the year before the zip line, when he turned 105, he won oldest person to ride a non-inversion roller coaster, which I love. That was Twistosaurus at Flamingo Land in Malton. On his 104th birthday, he got oldest person to receive their first tattoo.
I remember this guy.
1912. He was born. That, and it said Jack.
Didn't he go
his dates.
skydiving as well?
He went skydiving. That was another thing he did.
I think that's a good excuse. Like, if people say, why have you never had a tattoo? You can say, well, I'm holding out to become the world's oldest man to have his first tattoo.
Yeah.
And at the age of 107, so the year before he died, he became the oldest person to, I think it was, have a cameo in a soap opera. He appeared in Hollyoaks.
No.
It was-
Doing what?
He had one line. He just said, "Don't worry, I'm very old and I've had a great life and you'll be all right," and all of that. It was his first acting role in 100 years.
So he'd had a previous one when he was 7?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
What was it on?
I don't know.
He was on a train approaching the Gare du Nord, wasn't he? That's amazing. Hollyoaks.
I know Hollyoaks as well, which is such a young show.
Yeah.
That IMDb though, just with a 100-year difference. 2 credits.
When was he on Hollyoaks?
That was the year before he died, so it would have been 2019.
Okay, cool.
Do you watch Hollyoaks?
I have a friend who actually died over Christmas in Hollyoaks.
Oh.
So
Oh,
the
in
big thing-
Hollyoaks.
In Hollyoaks, yeah. She got crushed by a bookcase.
By a 108-year-old man whose parachute didn't open. Okay, that's it. That is all of our facts. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to get in contact with any of us about the things that we've said over the course of this podcast, we can be found on our Twitter accounts. I'm on @Schreiberland. James?
At James Harkin.
Andy?
At Andrew Hunter M.
And Rosie?
At Rosie Jones.
And is there anything that you want to mention that's coming up?
Yeah, I want to all of my dates are on rosiejonescomedy.com, and if you want to see me on telly, turn it on. And now with that.
Yeah, or you could go to our group account, which is at No Such Thing, or you can email us at podcast@qi.com. That's it for now. We're going to be back again next week with another episode, and we'll see you then. Goodbye.